They said they'd call tomorrow. They said I would understand. My name is Margaret Hill. I am 76 years old. For 32 years, I worked as a hospital cafeteria supervisor in Cleveland, Ohio. I woke up before sunrise every day, tied my hair back, and made sure doctors, nurses, and patients had warm meals. It wasn't a glamorous job, but it was honest. It paid the bills. It kept my children fed, clothed, and educated. I never missed a shift, and I never thought my reward for a lifetime of responsibility would be silence. I raised 4 children alone. My husband left when the youngest was barely 2. He said he wasn't ready for responsibility. I didn't get that luxury. I learned how to be both mother and father overnight. I worked overtime, skipped meals, and smiled through exhaustion because that's what mothers do. I told myself one day they'll understand. I believed love was a long-term investment. For years, everything revolved around them. School meetings, doctor appointments, part-time jobs after my full-time shift. I remember coming home with aching feet only to help with homework at the kitchen table. I remember pretending I wasn't tired so they wouldn't feel guilty. I never asked for thanks. I only expected respect. The first signs came quietly. A missed call. A rushed conversation. A visit that kept getting postponed. Mom, I'm busy. Mom, I'll call you later. Mom, you know how life is. Yes, I knew, because I had lived it for them. When my health began to fail, everything changed. It started with dizziness at work. Then a fainting episode near the serving line. The doctor said it was a combination of stress, age, and untreated high blood pressure. He advised rest. Rest. A word I had never truly known. That's when my children finally showed concern, or so I thought. They sat me down one evening like I was a child. Mom, this isn't safe anymore, said David, my eldest. We think a nursing home would be best, added Karen, not meeting my eyes. It's temporary, said Melissa. You'll be taken care of, said Brian, the youngest. Temporary. That word again. They chose Willow Creek Nursing Center. I packed 1 suitcase, just one. Because they told me I wouldn't need much. Because they told me I'd be back home soon. I locked my front door for the last time without knowing it. The first week they visited. The second week they called. By the third week, the calls slowed. By the second month, they stopped entirely. At first, I thought it was a technical issue. Maybe my phone wasn't working. I asked the nurse to help me dial. Straight to voicemail. Again. And again. Then one day I tried calling from the office phone. Blocked. All 4 numbers. That realization broke something inside me. Not anger. Not hatred. Just a deep, hollow silence. I had given birth to them. Raised them. Protected them. And now they had erased me. At Willow Creek, days passed slowly. I watched other residents receive visitors, children, grandchildren, flowers, balloons. On my birthday, the staff brought me a cupcake with a single candle. They sang. My children didn't come. I blew out the candle alone. Nights were the hardest. I lay awake wondering what I had done wrong. I replayed my life in my head, searching for the moment I failed them. I questioned every decision I had made as a mother. Was I too strict? Too soft? Too tired? Or was I simply convenient to forget? That's when Angela entered my life. She was a certified nursing assistant no older than 30. She spoke to me gently like I mattered. She asked about my past. She listened. Really listened. When she called me Ms. Hill, I corrected her. Call me Margaret. She smiled. Only if you call me Angela. Angela noticed things my own children never had. When I skipped meals. When my hands trembled. When my eyes stayed fixed on the door a little too long. She would sit with me after her shift even when she didn't have to. You remind me of my mom, she once said softly. That sentence meant more to me than she could ever know. Weeks turned into months. Angela became my emergency contact, my advocate, my family without ever asking for anything in return. Meanwhile, my children never called, never visited, never checked. One evening, while helping me organize my bedside drawer, Angela found an old envelope. Inside were bank statements. She frowned. Margaret, do your kids handle your finances? I nodded. They said it was easier. She didn't say anything, but her silence was loud. That night, I couldn't sleep. For the first time, a terrifying thought crossed my mind. What if they didn't just abandon me? What if they were waiting for me to disappear? That fear changed everything. Because in that moment, I realized something painful but powerful. Love that disappears when you need it most was never love to begin with. And somewhere deep inside me, a quiet decision began to form. Not revenge. Not anger. But control. This was only the beginning of my story. The part where I stopped waiting. The part where I started seeing clearly. The part where the woman who raised 4 children alone finally chose herself. I waited for the phone to ring. I kept telling myself they'd remember. But days passed. Then weeks, then months. And the phone stayed silent. Living at Willow Creek Nursing Center taught me patience in a way motherhood never had. At least when my children were young, I knew why they needed me. Here I was needed by no one except the woman who had no obligation to care. Angela. She became part of my routine without forcing her way into my heart. She brought me tea exactly how I liked it. She remembered the stories I told even when I repeated them. When I cried quietly at night, she sat beside me and held my hand without asking questions. One evening she asked softly, "Margaret, when was the last time your kids visited?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. It was Angela who helped me uncover the truth. She noticed unpaid bills arriving at the nursing home. Bank letters I didn't recognize. Insurance notices I didn't remember approving. "You should really speak to a financial advisor," she said carefully. Just to be safe. That word again. Safe. With the help of the social worker, I requested copies of my bank records. What I saw made my hands shake. Large withdrawals. Accounts I didn't recognize. My pension rerouted. My children hadn't just blocked my calls. They had taken control of my life. I felt foolish, embarrassed. But more than that, I felt awake. I had trusted them blindly because they were my children. I thought love meant loyalty by default. But love without respect becomes exploitation. And suddenly everything made sense. The nursing home. The block numbers. The distance. They weren't busy. They were waiting. That night I didn't cry. I made a list. Documents to request. Accounts to freeze. People to contact. For the first time in years, I felt something stirring inside me. Purpose. Angela helped me contact a legal aid attorney. His name was Mr. Thomas Reynolds, and he specialized in elder financial abuse. He listened quietly as I explained everything. Then he said something that stayed with me. "Mrs. Hill, you're not powerless. You've just been kept uninformed." Within weeks, we uncovered the full picture. My children had convinced me years ago to give them power of attorney just in case. I trusted them. They used it. But what they didn't know was that power of attorney could be revoked. And I revoked it. Immediately. When my accounts were frozen, my children finally noticed. David called from a new number. "Mom, what's going on? My card isn't working." That was the first thing he said. Not "how are you?" Not "are you okay?" Just money. Karen followed with an email. "Mom, this is really inconvenient. We need to talk." Melissa sent a voice note, frustrated. Brian didn't even pretend. He sent one line, "Please fix this." I didn't respond. Not yet. Silence, I had learned, was powerful. During this time, Angela became more than a caregiver. She was there when I signed papers, when I learned new truths, when I grieved the version of motherhood I had believed in my whole life. One evening, I asked her, "Why do you do so much for me?" She smiled sadly. "Because no one should feel disposable." That word. Disposable. That's how my children had treated me. But Angela never did. Months passed. My health improved. Not magically, but steadily. Stress had been killing me more than age ever could. I started attending group activities again. I laughed. I slept better. And I made another decision. One that would change everything. I reviewed my savings. Every dollar I had earned from standing on my feet for decades. From missed dinners. From sacrifices my children never knew about. And I asked myself one question. Who actually deserves this? The answer was painfully clear. Angela never asked for anything. Never hinted. Never expected. Which is why I chose her. I updated my will. I named Angela Martinez, the woman who treated me like a human being, as my sole beneficiary. Not because she replaced my children, but because she proved love doesn't require blood. Then, one winter morning, my children showed up at Willow Creek. All 4 of them. Smiling, nervous, polite, like strangers pretending to be family. "Mom, we've been worried," Karen said. I looked at her calmly. "Have you?" Silence. David cleared his throat. "We thought maybe we could start fresh." Start fresh. As if abandonment had an expiration date. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I simply said, "I already have." Their smiles faded. That day they left confused and unsettled. Because for the first time I wasn't chasing them. And they could feel it. But life has a way of circling back. And the moment they truly needed me was still coming. They never thought they'd need me. They never imagined I'd say no. By the time my children returned, I was no longer the woman they had left behind. I was stronger, clearer, awake. It started with a phone call. Not from my children, but from a hospital. David had been in a serious car accident. Multiple surgeries, months of recovery. His insurance didn't cover everything. They needed help. They needed me. Within hours, all 4 of my children were back at Willow Creek Nursing Center. This time they didn't come smiling. They came desperate. Karen cried first. "Mom, we don't know what to do." Melissa reached for my hand like she used to when she was little. I didn't pull away, but I didn't squeeze back either. Brian finally said the words they'd avoided for years. "We need you." I listened. I didn't interrupt. Because for once the truth was speaking louder than excuses. They talked about bills, about stress, about how hard life had become. Not once did they ask how I was. When they finished, I took a deep breath. "I want to understand something," I said calmly. "Where were you when I called you from this place?" Silence. "Where were you on my birthday?" Silence. "Where were you when I couldn't stand without help?" Silence. David finally whispered, "We thought you were taken care of." I nodded. I was. Then I turned my head slightly. And Angela stepped forward. "This," I said, "is the woman who took care of me when you didn't." Angela looked uncomfortable. She never wanted recognition. That's why she deserved it. She held my hand when I cried. She listened when I was invisible. She treated me like I mattered. My children stared at her, confused, embarrassed. Karen's voice shook. "Mom, please, just this once. We'll make it right." I looked at my children, 4 adults I had raised with everything I had. And I realized something painful but freeing. They loved what I could provide, not who I was. "I already made things right," I said softly. They frowned. I changed my will. I protected my savings. And I gave my life's work to someone who never abandoned me. The truth hit them like ice water. David stepped back. Melissa gasped. Brian looked angry. Karen looked afraid. "You gave it away," Brian snapped. "No," I corrected gently. "I gave it to love." Angela tried to speak. "Margaret, I never asked." "I know," I said, smiling. "That's why it's yours," they begged. They promised visits, care, apologies. Too late. Not because I was cruel, but because I had finally learned my worth. "I will not save you at the cost of losing myself again," I said. That sentence ended everything. They left Willow Creek in silence. This time I didn't watch them go. Weeks passed. Life returned to calm. Angela cried when she realized the depth of my decision. Not because of money, but because she felt seen. I told her family isn't who you're born to. It's who stays. I am Margaret Hill. I am 76 years old. I worked my entire life to raise 4 children alone. I was abandoned when I got sick. I was blocked, forgotten, and replaced by convenience. But I was also found by dignity, by truth, and by someone who called me Mom without sharing my blood. If you're listening to this story, remember, never measure your worth by how others treat you, especially when those others are family. YouTube ending. If this story touched your heart, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more powerful, real-life stories. Share this story because someone out there needs to hear that even abandonment can lead to strength. Thank you for watching.